Hello and welcome to Apologetics 101. I'm your host Brian. Thank you for watching. And today we're going to do another episode of Are We Apes series. But this one I've actually just kind of did ad nauseum on my channel a while back because I was a major part of the Tomkins Controversy 14 episode series that I had on my channel as well called the Tomkins Controversy, and I was a major part of that discussion concerning that. But we're going to be talking about the chimp and human similarities and differences today. We're not going to go as in depth on this because of the fact that I do have that 14 episode series in the Topics Controversy, and I discussed it quite often, including going into bioinformatics, going into BLAST, going into LASZ, NUCMER, all those algorithms that look for similarities and differences and or similarities because that's what they're supposed to do. We'll talk a little bit about that now. Mostly this video is tended to be because I couldn't leave this Are We Apes series without discussing at least chimps and humans similarities and differences. We're not going to be going too much on the physical differences because I do plan on the last episode of this series talking about those differences. And this series is going to be ending soon because I'm going to be starting a new series soon. And we got another episode coming up in a couple months or so, around August, probably toward the beginning of August, roughly, and in which we're going to be doing a chromosome 2 fusion response with Dr. Georgia Purdom. We might get into some other topic matters on genetics as well, but we're going to be co-hosting with Donnie Badinsky from Standing for Truth, and so I can't wait for that as well. But this is going to be another episode of Are We Apes series, and we're going to be getting heavily into the idea of human and chimp similarities and differences. This video won't be a long one, but it's going to be one that it's going to be able to provide you, in case you didn't see the Tomkins controversy, in case you might not be familiar with all of these algorithms that are used to look at these percent similarities and differences and stuff, and talk about that. And I can sit there and go over there and be able to give you a proper way to respond to these allegations of similarities between us and chimps. All right, without further ado, let's dive in.
Hello, my gentle and, of course, very modern apes.
Here, I'd like to kiss you goodbye.
All right, but you're so ugly.
Human beings are not just related to apes, but actually aren't.
This is a primate, and so is this, and so is this, and so is this. Hey, that's me.
We are still hominids, we're still primates, mammals, tetrapod.
Alright, glad y'all here with me today. Like I said, it's not going to be a long video, but I'm just kind of going to get into it. Last time we spoke, we talked about, or last time we did the Tomkins Controversy in the 14 episode series. If you actually watched that, we went over a lot of details. Erica had made this video, and it went viral, and and of course I already had a interview scheduled for Dr. Jeffrey Tomkins at that point. I hadn't had my interview yet, but it was literally right around the corner when she dropped that video. And so I watched that video. I was in the live chat, talked with Erica a little bit. That was the first time I met Erica. We've talked many times since then, but that was the first time I talked to Erica, was right there in that chat. And asked her, it was okay if I show a few clips, to Dr. Jeffrey Tompkins, maybe look some stuff that she said over and that sort of thing. And she said it'd be fine, but I ended up not showing those clips. But I did present a interview with Dr. Jeffrey Tompkins. It literally was the following Tuesday that I had an interview with him, so I did. But that interview wasn't a response to Erica's video per se, because we already had that scheduled up anyhow. Although Erica, when she did her response to my Tompkins interview, she seemed to assume that it was some kind of response to hers. It actually wasn't. I was just wanting to know because I'm trying to find research to ask, my expert on things, and usually I target. One of the things that I do is I'll sit there and look and see what is the what's the critics saying about those arguments, and just kind of get their responses for it. So I did, and me and Tompkins did do the interview. It went great. I liked it, but Erica didn't. So she does another video responding to that. So that's what kind of steamball us all the way into this entire controversy. It just kind of just rolled us all in, and but it became a lot more complex. There was a lot of stuff that was thrown around. There was a lot of stuff. It was a lot of chaos. But Erica made a huge mistake in the experiments that she made. This came out later. It wasn't known at the time. But one of the things she did was a self-to-self test with Tompkins' methodology. Now, of course, Tompkins came up with like 5 different papers, peer-reviewed papers, and in those peer-reviewed papers, he referenced an 85% number that he was coming up with, which also is the same as Dr. Richard Buggs. Dr. Richard Buggs is an evolutionary scientist, a theistic evolutionist, but he is an evolutionary scientist who also came up with an 85% number when he did the figure. And Erica said in her video, oh, well, Richard Buggs changed his mind in 2020, and it turned out that wasn't the case. I actually contacted Richard Buggs right after she did after she did her response to my Tompkins interview, where she basically accused Tompkins of basing it on hearsay, which he didn't. He was basing it on an email that someone else had from Buggs, but I think she intentionally misrepresented him there. But either way, that was not what Tompkins had done. Tompkins did not get it from hearsay, but she acted like he did. And so that prompted me to reach out to Dr. Richard Buggs. And turned out Dr. Richard Buggs did not change his mind. He still held to the 85% number that he came up with in 2018. 2020 paper by him and another guy named Seaman turned out was all about them trying to test a particular software out. They were not trying to assess human and chimp differences and similarities. That was not the purpose of the paper. And Erica had misinterpreted that paper and assumed that he had changed his mind because it has a 96% number. But that also did not take into account a lot of differences, a lot of similarities and differences that were overlooked. And as a result, the numbers, if you actually use the method, and this is what Richard Buggs himself told me, if you actually use the method, it would actually come up to 85%. If you use it to assess the similarities, it would actually come to 85%. And of course, Richard Buggs did something that nobody else has ever done, other than me, but I did it just in a very small scale whenever I did the experiments. But Richard Buggs did something that no other geneticist has done. He actually took in the differences that were not aligning. We're going to get into that later, because we're going to be talking about that a little bit as well. The differences that were not aligning in order to get a more accurate number. Well, anyway, Tompkins came up with this 85% number. Erica didn't like it, and she started to do what she does best, attack the people that she's responding to a lot, doing a lot of mockery. She doesn't like Tompkins. A whole lot of stuff started happening. She did a bunch of experiments, And one of the experiments was a self-to-self of less than 100%. That if you don't get 100% back, then usually the problem is you. I mean, it's your program, it's your algorithm, something like that. This prompted Dr. Rob Carter to sit there and say that he thinks that maybe there was something wrong with Erica's program. And of course Erica's husband's a programmer, so he's like, okay, she's saying, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with my program." No, there's nothing wrong with it. Well, I sat there, reached out to an evolutionary bioinformatics specialist whose name was Dr. Ian Korf. He wrote this textbook right here, this BLAST textbook. I reached out to this guy, right? What was that? Yeah, that's it. Ian Korf. And I reached out to him. The one question that I had that I wanted to know from Dr. Ian Korf, I only want to know one question. That's all I contacted him for. And that one question was, how does one get less than 100% without it being a program? Because I wanted to know, just in case it wasn't Erica's program, how would someone be able to do that? I mean, what's going on there? And so Dr. Ian Korf told me some stuff. He contacted Erica wanting to know more about the situation because he thought it was interesting. And Erica gave him some more information. He's like, oh, so that, and his bias took over a little bit. But the interesting thing is that he did point me in the right direction. He just incorrectly thought Tomkins was doing it. Now, he admitted that he thought Erica was doing mistakes too, that sort of thing, but he thought that Tomkins was doing this, and it turned out that Tomkins actually wasn't doing this. Erica was. And what happened was, this is what I figured out. I figured out that Erica was averaging up all these garbage results, all these because when BLAST aligns things, it gets a local alignment. It tries to get the best alignment, but it can also end up getting lots of different alignments, even within that alignment. Even that alignment itself will get pick up other alignments. They won't be the best alignment. They'll be somewhere in the bottom, but they'll be there on that list. Now, what someone can do is they can use a parameter in BLAST called max HSP. Or max HSP is a abbreviation that stands for high scoring pair. Okay, that's what it stands for. And if you set the max HSP to 1, you only get the best alignment, the best match, the best hit is what they call the best alignment. It always appears at the top of the BLAST search. If you set it by 1, you only get that. You don't get nothing else, which is good. Now, BLAST does not actually calculate all those results, but you can actually write up a program, or whether it's Python script or whatever, but you can actually write up a program to average out all your results. When you do this, you can average out all the results if you get all those results back. If you're not just doing, if you're doing the best alignment and the best alignment of each of the sequences, that's fine. You can average all that out, and that'd be okay. But if you got the best alignment, right, and you got a bunch of garbage results for that best alignment, and then you got the best alignment, a bunch of garbage results, and you gotta keep in mind, these are not 100%. Okay, they're not 100% the length, they're not 100% a similarity. They're going to be various types of percentages. Some of them might be 80% similar, some might be 50% similar, some might be 30% similar, etc. And if you got the different things with different amounts of similarity, what's going to happen if you average all those out? It's going to get you less than 100%. This was what Erica had done. It came out that now what I didn't know is how she did. Apparently, Erica then makes a video where apparently Glenn had pointed out the fact that the version that Tomkins was using had actually had max HSP 1 defaulted. That's why it was not in the list. So in other words, Tomkins had used the best alignment, and Erica did not. Erica had averaged out all those garbage results. She had a program that was embedded in her thing to average out those results that her husband put there. A program that just averaged out all those results, and that's what ended up happening. And she admitted to it. I mean, it was honest. I'm glad she came out and admitted to the whole thing. But it did cost her the controversy, because this didn't just mess up her self-to-self, did it? What else did it mess up? It also messed up every single thing, every other result that she had in her entire experiment. All her experiments was garbage. You couldn't sell that on the street for free. I mean, you just couldn't. It was rendered completely bogus, as she herself admitted in the video, actually. And, well, any rate, I told Dr. Rob Carter about this. He said, yes, Erica's admitting to this. This is the reason why. And she told me he found that program. He identified it. I looked it up, found it, asked Carter if I could put that into my video, so I ended up publishing on it. Actually, I was the first to publish on a lot of things in that video. Right after I published on that, Rob Carter then published on that particular program as well, and talked about it and on his channel on Biblical Genetics. And Erica wound up getting thrown out of the mix. After that, she did redo her experiments, but she did assume Glenn Williamson's argument, which claimed that Tomkins had taken a percent of a particular sequence, which is not the case, or like divide by the whole sequence, kind of thing, and that's not the case. It was not. That was not what Tomkins did. I've got entire videos on this. You can watch it if you want. But Glenn ended up strawmanning, misrepresenting Tomkins's video, misrepresenting the arguments that Tomkins made in this paper. And this came out in my video. I also saw some other blunders, like in his 2013 Tomkins 2013 paper. He did these math, or he had these numbers, and he gave these numbers a long time ago to Glenn. And Glenn figured up this order, this order, this order, comes up with this number, and that's why he thought that that's what Tomkins did, except the numbers were not exact. And the problem with that is that he was making an inference, a logical inference from those numbers, that this must be what he did, because he didn't have an actual statement from Tomkins saying he did it this way. Okay, so he assumed he did it this way because he ordered it and came up with this number. Okay, the problem, however, is that not only is that not what Tomkins did, but the numbers actually didn't match up. But he got kind of close, and so he thought, oh, well, Tomkins rounded up. And this became another major boo-boo, because he ended up making a major mathematical mistake, not just a logical one, a mathematical one, because he was the bases that were being used by Tomkins, 300 bases. Essentially, he was trying to say that Tomkins rounded up. From what exactly? These are bases, not actual numbers or fractions. He basically, Glenn, that is, rounded up from a fraction of a base to a whole number. So he made a huge mistake mathematically, and that came out in my video as well. And Glenn was so embarrassed by the fact that he made these mistakes. I mean, he should have seen them. He was so embarrassed by it, he would not sit there and do a public response to me. He did do a short, unlisted response, like 2 minutes long, but it didn't really deal with any arguments I made in the video. He just basically took those 2 minutes to call Tomkins a liar. And then I gave him a host of reasons why Tomkins did not lie, and why lying for Tomkins on that would not make sense at all. What about the claim that humans and chimps are 96 to 99% similar? What these algorithms do, Okay, what these like blast here, and Nutmere and Lassie, they are algorithms. They are considered algorithms that search the genome for similarities, and they state some organism that they're comparing it to. The two genomes are being compared. Okay, now the way in which they compare things now is different, very different. The way Nutmere compares things, the way Lassie compares things, the way Blast compares things, they're not all the same way of comparing them. So we have to, and that was one of the mistakes that Glenn also made, because he didn't take into consideration that the way they compare them was very different. But just to kind of clarify, these algorithms are looking for similarities, not differences. Okay, they do actually have some similarities. They do have some similarities or some differences in the alignments. But the point of the alignment is that you find a sequence or a part of a sequence or whatever the case may be that is in agreement with something else in the genome. And you just kind of keep on comparing that to try to get an overall understanding of the similarities between this and that. But unfortunately, when you're doing these kinds of comparison, you have to do it as a ratio between what's similar and what's different. Because if you don't, it gives you kind of an artificial understanding of the overall similarities and differences. So if someone were to say, well, chimps and humans have 96% similar to each other, what would you think? Well, that means we must be 4% different, right? You know, if we're 96 to 99% similar, then we are 1 to 4% different. Is that true? No, not at all. Actually, we're quite a bit different. I mean, anyone with an ounce of common sense can look at chimps and humans and tell there's major differences between us, including our sizes. So you can easily tell there's differences between us. But some strange reason, evolutionists, well, I know the reason why the evolutionists do. The evolutionists really are pushing for this because they need chimps and humans to be related to make certain evolutionary ideas work. And it doesn't work. I mean, even if chimps and humans really were 96 to 99% similar, of course, common design, God can actually create us similar. We got similar needs, similar biologies, similar ecosystems, you know, that sort of thing. Similar types of habitats, biochemistries, all sorts of things. And of course, you know, all sorts of things could happen between humans and chimps being similar. You know, and we are similar in many ways, but we're also very different. And we are different in fundamental ways that separates us from chimps. In fact, it separates us from any primate. Because we're not like apes. We're not, in spite of what is believed by some, we're not primates, we're not apes, we're not monkeys, we're not related to them, we're not any of those things. And we certainly are not apes. And we're very different from them. Now, in reality, we're not 1% to 4% different. We're actually far different. These algorithms, like I said, are only looking for similarities, not differences. You can have some differences in alignment, but if it differs too much, then it wouldn't align. Okay, that makes sense. And that's according to the information on bioinformatics, on these systems, on these algorithms. Okay, so what happens when you factor in all those differences that are not aligning? Okay, well, your pool of data increases. But since most, if not all, of that increase is coming from differences, guess what that does to your overall percent similarities? it reduces it. This is something I actually I had this um, uh, argument and prediction early on in Tomkins Controversy. This got verified in a video that I did where I actually looked into the genes, and I did a genetic comparison using BLAST at the command line. I have BLAST on my computer, I have Python on my computer. I still have all those on my computer. They take up a lot of data, so I don't use it usually anymore. But I did use it during this video, and I did make all sorts of comparisons. And it did change, the data did actually change the results. Once you take into account the differences, it did affect the overall results. I'm sure. And that will happen when you factor in the differences. So what happens is that in reality, we are far less similar to chimps than is what is being promoted by evolutionists. And by the way, this argument that I'm making here in this video is non-refuted. It has never been refuted by a single evolutionist. The vast majority of them won't even deal with this particular argument, where I address the fact that these algorithms are looking for similarities, and once you factor these similarities in, it will actually drop, or these differences in, it will actually drop the percent similarity. And this has never been refuted by evolutionists because the vast majority of them know this to be true. Now, there was one evolutionist that did respond to this particular argument, and that was Glenn Williamson. He was literally the only one who actually responded to it. I've never seen anyone else try to respond to this, but Glenn tried to respond to it. And the way he responded to it is he took the longest sequence, the longest alignment, not sequence, but alignment that Tomkins came up with in his thing, and he blasted it over and over again several times. And the object of it was that he could try to get some of the differences that did not align previously to align. And he thought, well, this proves that there are not these differences cannot be aligned. But he missed the whole point. For start with, just because you can blast it several times and get some of the differences to align doesn't mean there's other parts of the genome that are so different that it won't align at all. It just means that you can get some of these differences to align if you sit there and blast it over and over. That's true. And sometimes whenever I was doing experiments, some of the differences would align while other differences didn't. And then vice versa, if I were to do it again and again and again. That happens. So the differences and the number of differences and number of similarities could actually change with each passing, possibly. But it didn't change anything, really, because of the fact that you still had differences that was not aligning. And there's still entire bunch of differences in the human genome in comparison to the chimp genome that was quite different. Interesting enough, they actually published a paper in the previous year, or it might be in either 2023 or 2024, somewhere in there. They published a paper, a Y chromosome paper. I've actually got a video on the Y chromosome paper, on the chromosome, on it's titled the Fall of Evolutionism on the Y Chromosome Debate and the Rise of Critic Kinds. I would just recommend you watching that video. I really loved that video. That was cool. I went through the entire paper. And this paper was written by evolutionists. It was written by a bunch of evolutionists. And they were obviously evolutionary. I mean, there's evolutionary presuppositions all through this paper from beginning to end. So you can tell this was a very, very strongly oriented evolutionary controlled type paper. But in that they have a graph of the percent similarities. And this is what amazed everybody. The chimp and human percent similarity at the Y was 26%, less than 30% comparison between chimps and humans. And actually, if you looked at the percent similarities, now I did in this video, the highest scoring between them was the two species of orangutan. And of course, the next highest was the bonobo and chimps, which everybody agrees is related. But after you got away from that, all the other ones, including between chimps and humans, was really, really low. And this substantiated the claim. This actually matched the prediction made by the created kinds model, including what the percent similarity would be at the Y, and between humans and chimps, and it did not match the expectation of the evolutionary community. In fact, this actually shocked them. And so the writers of the paper spent most of the paper trying to figure out why there's so much divergence between these great apes, which they include humans. They call the great apes, they're not human, the non-human apes, which implies that we're apes. So you can tell this is got very heavy evolutionary presuppositions. But that's what makes this argument so strong. We use one of their papers in their study to show the difference in similarities match that of the created kinds model, not the evolutionary one. Interesting enough. And also another thing is that the writers of the paper recognize the fact that these Y chromosomes had size differences, which also factors in there. So they were actually considering size differences whenever they were looking at it. Different size differences there. And obviously this deviated greatly from the X chromosome, which they assumed would actually match the X chromosome. They assumed that the Y chromosome would start out the same size as the X chromosome and would have similar percent similarities to the X chromosome, but it didn't. And so they thought, well, maybe there's something that caused these Y chromosomes to deteriorate. So of course they have a rescue device, speculation, and things like that. So all that stuff you can find it on my video. I do respond to it. I'm not going to deal with it here. But interesting enough, putting aside their rescue device, it did match that of the prediction made by creationists on the Y chromosome. And I thought that was interesting. But at any rate, obviously chimps and humans, far different than what is being claimed by the evolutionary community. Any similarities we would expect anyhow, because we have a common designer. But we're far different than what is being promoted and claimed by the evolutionary community. And I want to make sure I point that out. And that was pretty much it. I know that Erica actually has a debate with Jerry Bergman tonight, and I can't wait to see that. And but I'll get back more. I guess I will be doing a chromosome 2 fusion response and probably some other genetic arguments maybe with Dr. Georgia Purdom, with Donnie Bedinsky. He's going to be co-hosting it with me, so I can't wait for that. And also we're going to have the final episode of Are We Apes series coming soon. I got a interview with Dr. Jerry Bergman a couple days later. I also have another guy named Brian Thompson agreed to have an interview with me. So hopefully we'll see how that works out. I just now heard word back from him. But anyway, also going to be starting a new series soon called Supernatural. I can't wait for it. It's going to be awesome. Supernatural. And that's my newest series coming soon, so stay tuned. And of course, I got another episode of the Genesis series also coming toward the end of August, the 27th, or the interviews the 27th. It'll probably come at the beginning of September with Dr. Carl Werner on alleged transitional fossils. Hopefully the interview goes good. We tried it the first time and we had some major technical problems. Hopefully I got those fixed so that we can have our interview and things will go good. I sure hope so. I'm looking forward to it. He actually had brought a great presentation before we started having those technical issues. So hopefully we can get it underway this time pretty good without any issues. But anyway, thank you for joining me on here. Sorry it wasn't a longer video, but I just wanted to kind of touch base with you on that, provide you with a way to respond to these critics, and the argument I use on the algorithm where I discuss the fact that these are looking for alignments, they don't consider differences. I've never heard anyone refute that argument. In fact, the vast majority of the evolutionists I talk to won't even respond to it. They just ignore that I said anything at all. So this is not an argument that is commonly dealt with by evolutionists. So this is a good one. So I would recommend using this argument whenever someone tries to claim that humans and chimps are 96 to 99% similar. In reality, that's just not the case. We're far different. We're probably more closer to the 80% range, 85% range. Maybe a little higher. I don't think it would be anywhere near 90% once everything is completed. Now, when they did these experiments, Richard Buggs, Tomkins did these experiments in 2018. It is true that that they only had most of the human genome had sequenced at that time, and most of the ape genome. Now they have all of the human and almost all of the ape. And hopefully they will eventually have all the ape. And they'll probably do the comparison again, and that's great. But I honestly don't think it's going to get anywhere 90%. And that's assuming, of course, you include the differences, by the way. You include the differences, and you factor that in. And I don't think it's going to get above 90%. I think it's going to be probably around 87, 88%. You know, that's what I'm predicting at least. We'll see if that happens that way. It could be higher, but honestly, I don't see it. Because most of it was already sequenced by the time they did those experiments. So, but we'll see. Anything can happen. But I honestly don't think it's going to get above 90%. Now, of course, if they don't factor in the differences, what you're going to end up finding is it's going to come up to 96, 99% every single time. It doesn't matter how much sequence they sequenced, it's always going to come out the same because these algorithms look for alignments. They look for similarities. They don't look for differences. And so that means that they're going to have very little differences that's going to be part of that alignment. The vast majority of the differences are not going to be part of that. And that's something I also found out when I was doing those experiments. But any given case. Anyway, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe. I do all sorts of things on apologetics. I do general apologetics. I'm very passionate about Genesis and biblical creation. I love defending that. I love the resurrection. I'm hoping to bring more stuff on that. I'm still trying to get Dr. Gary Habermas on my channel for discussion on the resurrection. I'm fixing to start a supernatural series soon. So, yes, please join me on here. And till next time.